The Saab Gripen finally flies out for Sweden in War Thunder. Let's check it out. As military aviation made some major advances in the early 1970s, new developments around the world, and frankly the American experience of the Vietnam War, were not lost on the Swedish military leadership. They recognized the need for a new, modern fighter to replace their older fleet of Drakens, and expected that the Viggen would be due for phasing out around the time that a new jet was ready. Sweden's unique defense requirements meant that this new fighter was going to have to be small, incredibly simple to maintain in the field, and operable from improvised runways on stretches of highway. These factors combined with regular military requirements of a modern jet fighter to create a pretty ambitious program, and in 1979 the formal study was started to procure a new jet fighter. Foreign designs were quickly ruled out for various reasons, and Saab was given the job of developing a fresh new aircraft. The result was the JAS-39, named the Gripen after Saab's logo. The new fighter combined a state-of-the-art fly-by-wire control system with an aerodynamically unstable design with the intent of dramatically increasing dogfighting agility. But there were initially a lot of design challenges since basically everything about the new fighter was cutting edge and a pretty radical departure from older designs. The first prototype rolled out in 1987 on Saab's 50th anniversary, but it didn't fly until the end of 1988. Early on, the Gripen had a lot of problems with the flight control system, which resulted in a number of crashes and a lot of controversy. Slowly, the problems were ironed out, and the JAS-39A entered service in 1993. Since then, the Gripen has been upgraded into several newer versions and achieved moderate success on the export market, with purchases from Brazil, South Africa, Hungary, the Czech Republic, and Thailand. Among fourth-generation fighters, the Gripen stands out as being exceptionally cheap to operate and has generally been very well liked by maintenance crews. What we get in War Thunder is the JAS-39A, a jet fighter in rank 8 of the Swedish tech tree with a battle rating of 12.3. The plane has a fully modern combat system with the EEGS for its cannon, a ballistics computer, and the AR-830 radar warning receiver. Plus, the Gripen has a helmet-mounted targeting system, and it can take the Lightning II targeting pod. The radar set is the PS-05A. This is an I-band radar with all aspect and head-on velocity pulse Doppler modes, track while scan, and all of the other usual top-tier features. For loadouts, the Gripen can carry a huge range of missiles, dumb bombs, guided bombs, and a fuel tank across 7 external hardpoints. Notably, it can combine additional countermeasure dispensers into its infrared missile rails for an enormous quantity of chaff and flares. The short-range air-to-air missile you get is the RB-74, both the regular and the M versions. This is comparable to high-end versions of the Sidewinder, with strong turn performance and good tracking along with all-aspect targeting. The 74M also gets infrared countermeasures. The only radar missile you get is the RB-71DF, which is broadly comparable to the Skyflash missile. This is a medium-range, semi-active radar weapon with average performance for the top tier, and it's the only BVR missile you get. For ground attack, the Gripen can take 4 different varieties of paveway laser-guided bombs. The GBU-24 is noteworthy in that it contains an inertial tracker and is highly accurate even through a loss in laser lock. Lastly is the RB-75. This is a TV-guided anti-tank missile with a pretty strong warhead and very long range if you fire it from good altitude. It's not the strongest missile in the game, but it can take out most targets on a good angled hit. The flight performance of the Gripen is excellent, with some mixed comparisons to other top-tier fighters. It has a strong engine with a good thrust-to-weight ratio, but its acceleration at low speeds isn't quite as good as some of the other rank 8 jets, especially with a weapon load, but the acceleration catches up a bit at higher speeds. The rate of climb is good, even with weapons and a fuel tank, and the engine is actually really fuel efficient. On smaller maps, you might not even need the external drop tank, and even flying around on full afterburner most of the time, I never ran into any fuel issues with or without the tank. One major caveat though, the maximum speed. The Gripen redlines at about 1,450 kilometers an hour at low altitude, and even with a full weapon load and a drop tank, this jet can absolutely fly its wings off in level flight if you punch the afterburner and ignore the speed warnings, so be careful about that. The big claim to fame with this jet is its maneuverability, and I'm pleased to say that the JAS-39A in War Thunder doesn't disappoint. The Gripen is fully aerobatic and can pull insane Gs at almost any flight speed. All the footage in this review was recorded with a max ace pilot, and I'm still blacking out all over the place as the jet snaps into high G turns like they were nothing. In terms of rates and AOA, the Gripen is highly competitive, and the main thing you want to remember is that at higher airspeeds, this jet can absolutely snap into some insane maneuvers, but the G load will be much higher and you'll black out instantly. Try to stay below about 850 kilometers an hour for close-in fighting, and you'll have much better control of the airplane. No combat flaps, but the air brake is reasonably effective. When you take the JAS-39A out into air battles, it feels a bit like flying a MiG-29 or an F-16, and it's generally in the same category as both of them. This is a light, agile fighter with 6 hardpoints and good maneuverability. You can do ground attack with it, but as with other Rank 8 fighters, I strongly suggest sticking to air combat after you finish spading the jet. Your main consideration is going to be deciding if you want to fly out with 4 heat seekers under the wings, or take some RB-71 semi-active radar missiles. My personal preference was the 4 RB-74Ms and a pair of RB-71DFs. I find that the 71s give a little bit more flexibility for head-on attacks at slightly longer range, and they can force an opponent into defensive maneuvers while you finish closing the distance. This is also a good place to mention how useful the helmet-mounted targeting is, especially with the RB-71s. In the current top-tier air battles meta, the match frequently devolves into a huge chaotic mess near the middle of the map, and the helmet-mounted targeting gives you the ability to dynamically switch targets for both a radar lock and infrared seeker much more efficiently than you could with cyclic targeting or manual selection. Another notable advantage is the countermeasures, as in hundreds of charges of countermeasures. In addition to the 80 that the plane comes with, you can take additional dispensers built into your wing pylons with the RB-74 missiles for a total of over 700 charges. This is a big help, since the Gripen really is a close-in dogfighter, and anything that helps you get into close-range combat and survive long enough to get there is definitely worth using. For close air support, this is another area where the Gripen is surprisingly good. You can take LGBs and TV-guided missiles along with a targeting pod. The Pantsir S1 is still a problem, but generally speaking, this jet has an outstanding weapon system for close air support, and it can still defend itself in air combat. Really, it's good for either attacking ground targets or doing fighter sweeps up above a ground battle. Visually, the Gripen is a great-looking jet, with a very modern layout and a highly detailed 3D model. You only get one paint job by default, the basic Swedish Air Force one, but there are already a few dozen great custom skins up on War Thunder Live. Landing the Gripen is reasonably simple enough. You can drop gear a bit over 600 kilometers an hour, but just remember, no landing flaps, no thrust reversers, and no drag chute. So if you touch down hot, it's gonna be a pretty long landing run. The cockpit on this jet is just outstanding. Multiple MFDs, a moving map display, an enormous heads-up display, and excellent external visibility. This might be my new favorite cockpit in the game, and this jet is amazing to fly in VR. To close out on the JAS-39A Gripen. This jet has incredible dogfighting agility, an enormous supply of countermeasures, a good selection of multi-role weapons, and a high-performance radar set with helmet-mounted targeting. However, the plane can fly itself apart in level flight, like easily. Its overall quantity of weapons is barely average, and its only medium-range missile is, again, just average. The final verdict on the JAS-39A is that this jet can credibly perform just about any mission in War Thunder. It's better than anything else in the Swedish tech tree in air combat, and for ground attack or close air support. If you're a Swedish main, grind for this jet ASAP, as it's the only one you'll need, at least until upgraded versions come out. As always, thanks for watching.